Spoštovani udeleženci, najlepša hvala, da ste se nam danes pridružili. Lepo vas pozdravljam na našem webinarju, dajmo reči temu, prenosu v živo, na temo povratne informacije. Naslov sem dala povratna informacija, zato ker tole, kar bova danes predstavili Charlotte, ni nič drugega kot povratna informacija. Morda nekaj besed o tem, kaj je zame povratna informacija. Povratna informacija je nasvet za prihodnje aktivnosti. Povratna informacija je specifična, natančna, ker nam pove, kar je dobrega in nam predlaga izboljšave. S povratno informacijo pridobimo tudi čas, da vpeljemo te izboljšave in priložnost za izboljšanje in da izkazano znanje tudi pokažemo. In je samo nasvet, ki ga lahko sprejmete ali ne, in vzamete tisto, kar vi vidite, tisto, kar je vam uporabno, to, kar vidite, da vam koristi, in ostalo, kar ni, lahko pustite. In lepo prosim, da tako vzamete tudi tale današnji intervju. Ne kot sodbo, ne kot oceno, nič ni dobro, nič ni slabo, vse je v redu oziroma vse je tako, kot vzamem. Za začetek bi z vami rada podelila nekaj izdelkov, kreacij mojih učencev ob začetku šolskega leta. Zato, da nas malo poboža, da nam morda daje navdih, tako kot so ga dali meni, kot so to ustvarjali. Povabljeni so bili, da najprej podelijo, kako se počutijo ob vstopu v šolo, ob umetniških slikah, ki jih je z mano delila moja sorazredničarka, oziroma jaz sem njena sorazredničarka, kolegica, ki poučuje likovno umetnost. In potem, ko so podelili te izkušnje, so sami ustvarjali, kakšno bo njihovo šolsko leto. Na vaši strani ekrana, na levi ali na desni, ne vem, na moji levi je, vidite gore in pot čez gore. Pot, ki vodi gor in dol, zato ker so v življenju vzponi in padci, je podelila z mano ta učenka. Ampak na koncu te čaka vedno nekaj lepega. In to je sončni zahod. Narisala ga je v obliki srčka. Še en primer učenke, ki je z nami, s tem razredom podelila in danes tudi z vami, da je tole šolsko leto oziroma leto do zdaj bilo tole, kar vidite na eni strani risbe, narisano s svinčnikom. In leto, ki prihaja, vidi v barvah. Naslednjo uro so skupaj z mano načrtovali tudi cilje za njihovo življenje. Jaz jih povabim, da malo sanjajo, kaj si želijo postati, kje sebe vidijo čez 20, 30 let. In tale punca je napisala, da je njena želja, da bi postala učiteljica v prvi triadi. In že njen sanjski hobi bo bil delati na ranču in otroke učiti jahati. In njene sanje so, da bo lahko imela velik ranč s konji. In potem so napisali tudi nasvet sami sebi. In nasvet njej je bil, da lahko verjame vase, da lahko doseže, kar si zastavi, in seveda, če ne odneha. In še nekaj želja, vizij o tem, ciljev, o tem, kaj bi radi postali kot prostovoljni gasilci, so jih očitno navdihnili med letošnjim poletjem, kar je odlično. Potem električarji in še cilj, da si želijo ohraniti stike s sošolkami, da bi se imeli fajn, da bi rada bila prodajalka očal in da bi imela družino in da bi bila njena družina zdrava. Potem še nekaj nasvetov samim sebi, ne obupati, poslušati pri pouku, poslušati nasvete ljudi, ki so dosegli ta cilj, ponovno ne obupati nad stvarmi, ki jih imaš rad, vztrajati, tudi če je težko, se potrudimo in se ne predamo in tako se ne odrečemo ciljem, ki jih imamo. Tako da upam, da so te njihove želje vas tako nagovorile in navdale z optimizmom kot mene. Je pa fajn včasih še nekaj narediti. To, kar je z mano podelila ena moja prijateljica. In je rekla: Mateja, daj si desno roko na levo ramo. In povabim tudi vas, da date desno roko na levo ramo. In zdaj se potrepljate. Tako da včasih je treba tudi to narediti. Naš današnji načrt je sledeč, oziroma pri pouku temu rečemo pot učenja. Na začetku bom predstavila mojo sogovornico v intervjuju, ki bo potem tudi na voljo za vaša vprašanja. In ste lepo povabljeni, da seveda pokomentirate, da podelite vaše izkušnje, ki jih imate iz razreda, tako ne boste dobili samo izkušenj od mene in od moje kolegice iz Anglije, ampak še vsaj 20 in več tistih, ki nas spremljate. Potem si bomo ogledali intervju, ki traja približno 30 minut, tako da ta čas lahko delite in lahko spremljate te delitve potem na YouTubu oziroma na Facebooku iz kanala, s katerega spremljate. In na koncu si bova vzeli čas, da bova tudi nekje 15 minut odgovarjali na vaša vprašanja, ki jih boste postavili med našim, torej med predvajanjem intervjuja. Tako da hvala tudi za vaše pozdrave, tako da vidim, da ste z nami in nas spremljate, ker vas ne morem videti, zato če napišete in podelite, je še toliko lepše, potem čutimo, da ste z vami tudi preko vaših besed, ki jih delite. Posnetek bo na voljo takoj po zaključku tega našega srečanja oziroma webinarja. Želja je, da bi aktivirali učence, da bojo bolj vztrajni, odgovorni, samostojni, kritični in še cel kup različnih stvari slišim, ko sem z učitelji na šolah, z enim skupnim ciljem pa željo opolnomočiti jih. In ko bodo opolnomočeni, potem bo verjetno vse to pa še kaj zraven, kar si niti še ne znamo predstavljati. In seveda tukaj se prvo sebe vprašam, a sem jim sama zgled, sem z obstoječim načinom učenja, poučevanja to dosegla. Če je odgovor ne, okej, ne rabim frustrirati in drame delati okrog tega, vem, da je to samo priložnost za izboljšave, in če sem tudi v redu, pa se lahko potrepljam po rami tako kot prej. Vem pa, da si ne smemo naložiti preveč stvari. Tako vidim učence, ki si nalagajo preveč stvari, in še bolj vidim učitelje. In to breme, ki ga nosimo mi, saj veste, vse se prenaša iz zgoraj navzdol, a ne. In če nosim jaz pretežko breme in me boli hrbet od tega, potem sem jaz prvi zgled in tukaj odložim stvari. In ko jaz odložim stvari, potem tudi manj nalagam otrokom in tudi otroci ne klonejo potem, ampak zadihajo, potem začnemo skupaj ustvarjati. Tako da zdaj bi jaz predstavila našo gostjo. Torej z nami je Charlotte But. Charlotte je učiteljica angleščine, angleškega jezika. Prihaja iz Anglije, iz vzhodnega dela, vzhodno od Londona, ob obali živi. Svojo kariero je začela kot učiteljica in potem nadaljevala kot ravnateljica. Spoznali sva se na seminarju pri Hetiju, ko je imela predstavitev tranzicije, transformacije njene šole, ki sem jo kasneje tudi obiskala skupaj z učitelji. In kar nas je navdušilo, je bilo to, da smo začutili to srčnost, povezanost v skupnem cilju. In navdušile so nas veščine, ki so jih njihovi učenci imeli, to opolnomočenje, zato da so bili bolj opremljeni ne samo za učenje, ampak tudi za življenje. In zato sem jo povabila v Laško. In nekateri ste bili z nami tam in spremljali že njeno predstavitev, tisti, ki ne, je na voljo tudi na spletni strani formativno.si pod spletnimi tečaji. Tako da zdaj bom dala besedo, da se predstavi, in potem bom tudi prevedla. So Charlotte, I've told a little bit about you and when we've met on the, it was a seminar with Hetty. It was our first meeting there, and then when we visit with 10 teachers your school. So now you can present yourself also from you.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for allowing me to be part of this. It's an exciting new project. I've recently been back over to Slovenia and have self-funded a trip to find out more about the challenges your schools are facing, and to listen to your colleagues, yourselves, and your pupils, and to try to work out whether there's something that we can do collectively to support the transition of schools to meet the needs of the children of Slovenia. So I've got quite a lot of experience of school transformation in the United Kingdom. I've been head teacher of 2 different schools, both which needed quite significant transformation, and I've been privileged to work in education all my adult life and have taught children from the age of 4 to 19, and so I feel that there is some useful experience that I'd be able to contribute. But I'm very much inspirited part of the project that Matejo is leading the way on, and can't wait to get back over to get into some more schools and to see if there are ideas that we can put forward to support you.
Okay, so now I will translate. You give me a challenge now. Torej, Charlotte je zelo vesela, da se nam je pridružila. Učila je otroke od 4 do 19 let, bila ravnateljica 2 različnim šolam in jih popeljala na to pot tranzicije, transformacije, skratka razvoja, o katerem sem tudi prej govorila, da smo ga opazili na eni izmed šol, ki je ravnateljevala. To je bila osnovna šola, ki pri njih traja od 1. do 6. razreda, če bi jo prezrcalili v našo šolo. In seveda je zelo počaščena, da je lahko z nami in da skupaj začenjava ta projekt tranzicije, razvoja šol, kjer bova povezali izkušnje, ona njene iz Anglije, ker tam svetujem pomagati tudi drugim šolam v državni inštituciji Essex Council in tudi kot neodvisna svetovalka šolam, in seveda jaz moje tukaj iz Slovenije. Vmes med letom bova kakšne te izkušnje tudi delile, nekaj pisno, nekaj tako prek webinarjev, in seveda, če me spremljate na moji Facebook strani, oziroma če ste naročeni na novice, boste izvedeli in pravočasno obveščeni, kdaj se bo to dogajalo. Tako, zdaj si bomo, do you want to add something, Charlotte, or we should start with the interview?
No, let's have a look at the interview and see an insight into some of the things that we found when we visited last time.
Okay. Torej, obisk je bil proti koncu šolskega leta, obiskali sva 3 slovenske šole in v intervjuju so predstavljena nekatera spoznanja, ki sem jih jaz videla bolj kot slepe pege. Slepih peg ne moremo videti, če ne gremo ven, opazujemo, ali pa lahko jih vidimo, ko nekdo pride in se z njim pogovarjamo in nam da povratno informacijo. In to je meni omogočila Charlotte, in zdaj bova pogledali pač, kaj sva videli. Tako da, evo, lepo prosim. Is Charlotte Booth, an English teacher, ex-head teacher and a teacher trainer in Essex Council. She spent a week with me talking to teachers, head teachers, pupils, observing the lessons, and today she is here with me to give us a feedback as an opportunity to learn something and to grow. So, hi Charlotte. What did you notice and learn about our school and school system when we were visiting schools this week?
Sure. Firstly, I noticed that everybody shares a common goal. Everybody in all of the schools that we went to wants their students to be successful and to have a positive learning experience. There's also a sense of recognition that the didactic delivery of the curriculum is not working for all students. And we spoke to lots of teachers and colleagues who said they are experiencing difficulties with behaviour in classrooms, and with the learning behaviours of children. So I was really inspired by colleagues' willingness to look at what we're doing here and to think about some ways of changing things. But sometimes they don't know the strategies to use. They know that something needs to change, but they don't know what they can do. It. Absolutely. Yeah. And so what was really interesting was going from school to school and seeing some pockets of really good practice, of some great things being tried and some real positivity in some schools where people are experimenting with ways to present the curriculum in a way that is more engaging for students, and that it's more pitched at their level of their understanding. And I found that really exciting, that we were seeing some changes happening and some professional dialogue going on. But there is a sense of nervousness, I would say, about change, and definitely a lack of experience of seeing some different practice in the classroom. I think that we need to share some of those strategies that are going on and to build confidence in our colleagues to try some different things to be able to engage the students at the right kind of level.
You were surprised when you saw in our schools doors closed.
Yeah.
So it's maybe first step opening those doors and inviting our other colleagues to come in and observe and learn from each other.
Yes, I think that there needs to be more of a formative process in how we work together, where we go into each other's classrooms and we give formative feedback. We support each other with ideas and we learn from one another all the time. And yes, the closed doors, both metaphorically and physically, I think makes things difficult for people, that we're trapped in our own classrooms and we don't know what's going on in other classrooms and we can't then learn from that experience. So I warmly encourage colleagues to visit one another's classrooms and to discuss learning and teaching openly in a way that is non-judgmental, non-confrontational, but is about us learning ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And the same experience had also the pupils. We saw pupils who have some tools to learn better, but they don't use it in different lessons, different classrooms.
No, absolutely. We saw some students being quite independent in some lessons, especially where formative assessment is established practice. The students know what they're doing, they know what they need to do to develop their own skills and knowledge, and they're able to be quite independent. But you're absolutely right. They believe that that happens in that classroom only, and they are not yet taking that into other lessons or into other learning. They're not transferring those skills from one lesson to another. And similarly, we saw students not transferring knowledge, not connecting knowledge that they are picking up in previous years or in other subjects. They're not connecting that together, and it's a missed opportunity, really, but a real opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So you visited different lessons, different classrooms. You didn't know which teacher are using formative assessment, choice theory, or any other tools that they have or they have learned, but you notice the difference between lessons, between behavior of the pupils, and so on. So what did you notice? What were those differences that you noticed observing lessons?
Sure. So where children know what they're doing and they know what they can already do and they know what they need to do to continue to push themselves and to do better, those are the most motivated students that I saw, because they understand how they can make progress. They understand what the success criteria is, and they are able to check their progress against that. They were also the most independent of students, and they were most skilled at taking responsibility for their own learning. They were being resourceful, and they were using the time so well that not a second of learning opportunity was missed. However, where there were many lessons that I saw which were the teacher delivering the curriculum, the same learning to every student in the same way, I noticed that the students were not behaving in a way that showed the same level of engagement. They were not using time efficiently, and they were not motivated to complete the learning. And I think that that's because not all of the learning was relevant for all of the students. And the way of the learning taking place wasn't apt for all students. They couldn't all work in that way. Not every student learns in the same way at the same pace, and we need to recognise that and to tailor the learning for those students, and then they will become more engaged, they will be more productive, and they will be more diligent and independent, and they will seek out that knowledge and those opportunities for themselves. And as a result, the classroom will be a more conducive learning environment, but also every student will make more progress. And ultimately, that's what all of the teachers were telling me at the beginning when I was speaking to them. They all want the students to make better, to get better outcomes, which means to make more progress. And we were seeing that in some of those classrooms where students could be really successful.
I remember that you said if your daughter will be in our schools, she would be unsuccessful.
Yeah, completely. So she doesn't learn in the way that most lessons are delivered in Slovenia. So she has to have practical ways of learning. That's how she remembers things. She likes to act things out in context. She likes physical manipulatives. That's the way that she learns best. And she's very disorganised as a learner, and she finds it very difficult to concentrate on one person talking. So if she came in and faced lesson after lesson after lesson of the teacher talking to her, and the only option being to write down notes, she would fail completely. And it's not because she's unable, it's not because she has a learning disability, it's because she doesn't learn like that, and she would not do as well as she could do in those kind of situations.
I remember the lesson when you spoke to the pupils and asked them how would they like to learn.
Yeah, that was very insightful. We asked them how they like to learn, and every single child except one gave an answer, and we kind of tallied that to see how do they enjoy learning. And they said that they like to work in teams, or they like to work in pairs, and they like discussion, and they like practical learning. And we then asked them, what type of learning do you do most? And it was listen to the teacher and make notes or copy out. And we could see a direct comparison between what they like to do and how they learn best and how they're taught. And I'm not sure whether we were making enough opportunity of asking our students what works for them. We're making some assumptions about it, and we really need to be talking to the students because they know they're not trying to get out of doing the learning, they're trying to make the most of the learning, and let's listen to their voices.
For me, it was new also the way you observe the lessons. I noticed that when you come to the classroom, you take some notebooks. What did you discover looking on in the notebooks of girl or boy or different students, which are some of them more or less successful?
Yeah, so to me, when I enter a classroom, it's not about watching the teacher. In fact, it's almost everything but watching the teacher, because when you watch the students, you can see their level of engagement, and are they asking questions, are they answering questions, how are they showing their understanding? And when you look in their books, that's where you see what they're being successful at and how they're being successful. And you can tell more from picking up the books and watching the students, because that's the evidence of progress over time. It shouldn't be like a show with the teacher waiting for the observer to come in and then they start their performance. It's not that I'm looking for. It's the impact of the teaching and learning over time that is important. So looking in the books tells me so much. It tells me whether students are pushing themselves, whether they are making progress, whether they are completing the activities given to them. And there's a real variety, and it's not always linked to ability. It's linked to motivation and interest, and also the relevance of the task. So you can see sometimes you open the student's book and you can see at the beginning of the year they had some skills, some knowledge, and they showed that. And then at the end of the year, they're doing the same activities, which has no greater challenge. And then we wonder, why are students not engaged in this? Why are they not motivated? but it's not challenging to them. They don't need to practice that particular skill. They already could do it at the beginning of the year. They could probably do it in a previous year. And we also saw some examples where the challenge isn't vertical and it isn't progressive enough throughout year groups. We saw some students in grade 2 who were better writers than those in grade 5. And I don't want those great skills in grade 2 to be lost as they go through, because the teachers don't know how well the students can do so early on. So we need to be looking at the progression and the prior learning and what students already know and can do, so that we are building on that prior knowledge, not just practicing the same thing over and over again, because that's leading to our children becoming disaffected and disengaged and ultimately not making as much progress as they could.
What do you think, which are the tools that the teacher can use in the classroom to empower students?
So the teacher really needs to know what the students can do and where they're going, and it's about communicating that to the students. And so feedback is the number one most important thing initially. So looking at what they can do, questioning them and understanding, are they all getting this correct, or is there some challenge here? And through that questioning, take the opportunities to explore errors and misconceptions, because that's where the best learning comes from. I saw so many lessons where the teacher asked, did everybody get that correct? And they all said yes. And then that's where it stops and there's no more learning. So use discussion, use questioning, and use feedback to students to empower them to know where they're going next.
Let's say a little bit more about feedback. We hear pupils talking about feedback as a grade, or talking about feedback teacher will be, they didn't know if they were successful. They were just like waiting teacher to say it's okay or not okay.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's too much wasting time waiting for the teacher, because we have only one teacher and 24 to 27 pupils.
Yeah, absolutely. So the feedback needs to be about the skills and the knowledge that are being imparted and developed during that lesson. And it's about whether or not the student is understanding what the lesson is about, what the learning is about, not the task. We need to move from task and activity to learning and understanding. And they can be tiny skills or tiny pieces of knowledge that you would focus on in the lesson. And so the feedback needs to be specific about that and about what the student is managing and what they still need to work on. So it could be some feedback on lots of maths, and the student will then know, what am I secure in? And then these are the pieces to work on, and these are the things that I can try to develop my skill in that particular area. And that's the same in any subject, in fact. So the feedback needs to be specific to that piece of learning. Using success criteria is the easiest way of being able to do that. And it's not about being right or wrong, and it's not about the grade at the end, because if our children are making good progress in all areas of the curriculum, they will achieve the best that they can in that final grade. It's about us feeding back on the skills and the knowledge that are being developed at that time.
So what do you think, what could be our first steps or next steps? Do you have any advice for us?
Yeah, there are a few things really. I think we need to discuss teaching and learning more openly and in a professional dialogue kind of way. Discuss our own learning about the process of transforming teaching and learning in the classroom. We need to open those doors, and we need to share the pockets of excellent practice that are existing in every school from what we've seen, and learn from one another, because we are resources in the school. We also need to question ourselves. During the lesson, as a teacher, how do I know that the pupils understand this? Am I using my tools to ensure that this lesson makes sense to them, that they are developing this knowledge? And so using questioning and feedback is the absolute starting point for that. Are we ensuring that we are using time effectively, that we are delivering the right pieces of the curriculum and the right level of challenge at the right time? Or are we teaching the children the same thing as we did at the beginning of the year in the same way, and they're going to make the same kind of progress, which is very minimal? Just delivering the curriculum, not encouraging learning, not developing our students as active learners, but just here is the curriculum, which we know pupils are not engaging as well with, and they are not remembering as much of, and they are not being as successful.
So thank you, Charlotte, very much. I learned this week a lot. It was for me like seeing blind spots that we have, and I realized that I couldn't solve them, because when you go to with someone in the classroom who it's not from our education system, our culture, you can see really your blind spots, and this I see as an opportunity for growth, for learn, and not as a critic or something.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. My job here was just to look at what the situation is and just to be able to offer a reflection of that. But also the head teachers that we spoke to were so keen to make positive changes in their schools and improve that experience for the students. But because there is no school transformation that has taken place yet here, there is a nervousness and a lack of experience with transformational strategy. But there is a willingness and a positivity that is really quite exciting for somebody like me to come in and to see. And I know that everybody is sharing that same goal of leading the students to be successful.
Thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward to have you here again and cooperate or learn with you.
Lovely. Thank you for having me, and thank you to all the schools who let us in to so warmly welcomed in to have a look at what's going on.
Tako, najlepša hvala gospe Marisi, ki je že podelila z nami in izpostavila, da je pomembno vzpostaviti pristen odnos. Morda kar bi čas, ko še vi pišete, boste delili izkušnje, ker je težko pisati in poslušati hkrati. Zato verjamem, da zdaj že kaj tipkate, da ste podelili ali postavili še kakšno vprašanje. Imate izjemno priložnost, danes je tukaj z nami, ne bo tako hitro spet. Izpostavila bi to, če se navežem na gospo Marizo, da ja, odnos, podeliti kdaj sebe iskreno in zelo preproste ugotoviti, česa ne razumejo, tako da jih vprašamo, kaj pa ne razumeš. In biti vztrajen v tem in res spuščati in odpirati prostor, ker ko bomo prvič vprašali, kaj pa ne razumeš, če podelim svojo izkušnjo, je bila ta, da so me gledali in niso vedeli, a naj kaj rečejo ali ne. Zato, ker mi niso zaupali, ker so se bali, da bodo imeli nižjo oceno, da jih bom jaz drugače sodila morda. In je treba samo v tem vztrajati in videti in rabijo imeti izkušnje, da ko vprašajo, prosijo, da ne bodo sojeni, da ne bodo zasmehovani, ne od mene, ne od sošolcev, da ni nič groznega, da ni nič prav ali pa narobe, ampak samo podelijo, vprašajo in ko podelijo in vprašajo, dobijo in ne dobijo samo od mene, ker smo rekli, ne si nalagati preveč dela, ampak mrežite njihovo znanje. Torej naj si pomagajo drug drugemu in potem ne bo več problem skrivanje drug pred drugim in zapiranje zvezkov, ampak bodo vprašanja, kje ti lahko pomagam. Sploh, če z njimi podelite, da se največ naučijo takrat, tako kot na piramida v mojem priročniku, ko razlagajo drugim, ne takrat, ko sami naredijo, še manj takrat, ko slišijo ali pa vidijo mojo razlago. In potem to ni več težava. In izpostavila bi še eno stvar, ki je Charlotte omenila v intervjuju, in sicer mi smo na šoli vir učenja in znanja in ne rabimo vabiti drugih in pričakovati, da nam pride nekdo od zunaj iz vrha in od ne vem kje nam povedati, kako naj delamo. Rabimo samo zaupati sebi in začeti s tem, kar čutimo v sebi, da rabimo narediti. In imamo dovolj informacij, dovolj znanja, dovolj knjig, ko bomo pa odprli vrata in povabili še kolega, da podeli z nami in mogoče konference pedagoške organizirali tako, da ne bodo izgledale kot enosmerna dostava informacij, vem, da so eni ravnatelji tukaj dan z nami, Uroš, pozdravljen, ampak da bo to dvosmerna komunikacija, ko bodo učitelji delili med sabo te izkušnje. In v tem so drugačne pedagoške konference, ki so res pedagoške in pogovor o učenju pri nas ali pa v tujini, recimo v Angliji. So Charlotte, I gave some points outside this interview. So as one of our visitors noticed that the most important thing is the relationship and hearing the pupils, and what you've said in the interview, opening those doors and share what we know. We have enough information and knowledge from outside. It's now time to share between us and changing those teacher meetings in the way we discussed, maybe in the way you have it in UK or Scotland.
Yeah, the focus has to be on learning, and the easiest way to begin talking about teaching and learning is to use those meeting times, because that's the opportunity that everybody has to get together. And there's so much good, excellent teaching and learning going on in pockets in schools, and this is such an opportunity to look to see what other people are trialing, and there's a sense of humility with the colleagues that we visited, and each of those would have something really positive to share in a discussion about teaching and learning, but there is a sense of humility of, oh, I don't think I've got it right, but I'm trialing this, and this is the outcome that I've had from this, and this is what I'm going to try next. And once we open up that dialogue and we realise that it's not threatening in any way, it's just a way of building our collective skills and changing the education for our children, then it's no longer an uncomfortable feeling. It's actually something that adds to our role as teachers, where we are continuing to develop ourselves. So
yeah, I will translate now. Poudarila je še enkrat to, da naj bodo te srečanja učiteljev res srečanja učiteljev, kjer učitelji delimo svoje izkušnje, znanje iz razreda, in da je opazila, da smo morda malo zadržani ali pa da nas je strah deliti, da se bojimo sodb morda, ne? In da sploh ne gre za to, gre za to samo, da vsak pove, kako on vidi stvari, kako on počne stvari v razredu, in tudi ko nekdo drug pove in podeli, gremo lahko iz takega srečanja samo še bogatejši, in da ne gre za sodbo, tekmovanje, kdo je boljši, kdo je slabši, ali pa neko nerodnost. Saj nimam nič posebnega za podeliti, saj nič posebnega ne delam, ampak da res jo vidimo kot priložnost, da se učimo drug od drugega. In tukaj je še ogromen potencial v Sloveniji, poleg te želje, ki smo jo slišali pri ravnateljih, da želijo, da se nekaj spremeni, in potrebo, ki smo jo slišali pri učiteljih, da se spremeni. Tako da hvala tudi še za ostale delitve. Evo, jih bomo še tukaj malo podelili od Nataše pa od Maje. Da vidim, če je bilo kakšno vprašanje. Nataša je tudi izpostavila to, da si učitelji ne zaupamo, da težko spustimo kakšno osnov iz učnega načrta in se posvetimo otrokom in odnosom. In morda je to še eno izmed področij, kjer imamo še potencial za napredek. Do zdaj smo šopali z učnim načrtom, ne me narobe razumeti, ne rečem, da tega ne delati, ne? Ampak morda, da damo to na stran in da se posvetimo odnosom, da slišimo otroke in seveda najprej, da slišimo sebe in kaj mi rabimo, ker mislim, da si res nalagamo preveč bremen v tem času in še drugi nam jih malo naložijo in mi jih sprejmemo. Tako da, pedagoške debate, pravijo, da so Charlotte often these teacher meetings end with complaining about non-motivated students or parents not supporting them or trusting teacher or too less time. How did you face these challenges in UK?
So it's interesting because that is, of course, connected to what we're speaking about. Children's behaviour and commitment and motivation and engagement is directly related to how relevant and engaging the learning is to them. And so if we're talking about behaviour for learning and we're not attributing that to the way that we are teaching, then there is a disconnect.
Torej, Charlotte je izpostavila, da seveda je vedenje učencev ali odnos do njihovega učenja tako oziroma sinhronizirano s tem, kar pač mi počnemo in kar se dogaja v razredu. In seveda ne moramo pričakovati, da so motivirani in zavzeti, če jih tudi z druge strani ne slišimo in vključimo v to. In da gre za neke vrste, se pravi, nepovezanost v tem, ko gremo drug mimo drugega. Se pravi, učitelj uči, dostavlja kurikulum, tako kot sva izpostavili, učenci bi radi svoje in se ne slišimo. In je, se pravi, tukaj, ko se bomo poslušali drug drugega, tudi njih in vključili, imamo še precejšen potencial. Torej, še ena delitev, hvala Vesno. Vesna je izpostavila, da se je zdelo zanimivo, ko je Charlotte omenila, da je pomembno, da učenec ne izgubi sposobnosti in znanja, ki ga je imel v nižjih razredih. Kako v Angliji prenesejo naprej to znanje v naslednje razrede. So the question was, Charlotte, how do you solve these challenges? As you notice that some pupils in 2nd grade write better than in 5th grade. And how do you solve this problem or challenge?
So when teachers are communicating better and those classroom doors are open, it's easier to see what's going well in some classrooms. I believe that sharing examples of the pupils' learning in their workbooks is key to sharing the knowledge of progression from a child, a trajectory from where they start in school to where they want to be at the end of it. Because we saw quite often the challenge being kind of not in an order that you would expect. So the challenge for those year 2 pupils was higher than the challenge for the grade 5 pupils. And so those grade 2 students were doing better because they were being challenged more and they were being given a really good range of tools to be successful writers. So opening the dialogue is key. Understanding a pupil's trajectory or improvement journey is key, and ensuring that the challenge is incremental is ideal.
Okay. Torej, rešitev za to je odpreti vrata in podeliti. Učiteljica 2. razreda naj podeli z učiteljico 3. razreda. In to tako, da lahko obiščeta drug drugo, gresta hospitirati, vzameta zvezke, opazujeta, predajeta informacije in enako tudi v 3. razred. In tako bo v bistvu ta razvoj in napredek bolj smiselen, bolj povezan, bolj linearen, bi lahko temu rekli, da ne bo prihajalo do tega, da učenec v 2. razredu boljš piše kot učenec v 5. razredu, ker pač učiteljica ni videla, kako ta učenec v 2. razredu piše, in to se lahko zgodi že samo predajo zvezka ali pa morda, da imamo aktiv, pa pogledamo zvezke učencev, pa vidimo, kako piše v 2., kako v 5., kako napreduje in se pogovarjamo o tem. tisti, ki ste v procesu formativnega spremljanja, učiteljice delijo plakate z merili uspešnosti zapisa, govorne vaje, gre z učenci iz 2. v 3. razred, ko učiteljica ve, kaj so osvojili v 2. in tam nadgrajujejo in morda ne gre s tem plakatom še kakšen zvezek učenca z njim in učiteljica lahko prelista, dajmo reči zvezek najbolj uspešnega, pa najmanj uspešnega, pa recimo v narekovajih, pa enega povprečnega učenca in vidi iz tega, kaj ta otrok zna. In tako se ne bo dogajalo, da bodo izzivi, ki jih ponujajo drugošolcem, večji od tistih, ki jih ponujamo petošolcem, vsaj na ravni zapisa, kar je pač lahko ona videla v zvezkih nekaterih učencev na nekaterih šolah. Okay, so there are no other questions or comments. I would like to thank you, and there are some ideas popping in. Hvala, Maja. Je podelila z nami še idejo, da lahko učiteljci napišemo na koncu leta pismo o svojih željah, strahovih, o svojem življenju in učiteljica iz teh pisanj vidi čuda stvari. So the idea was that the pupils can write at the end of the year a letter to the next teacher about them, about their what they're scared about their knowledge or what they wish or what are their goals about their life. And so the teacher that will teach them next year will know a lot of things about the pupils. Tako da to. Charlotte, do you want to add something in the end?
No, I'm manically trying to translate questions as we go so that I can respond. No, just to say it's great to see so many people join in this evening and to show an interest. It's really inspiring how many colleagues in Slovenia are willing to make change and are brave to try new things, and I'm just so excited to be part of it. So thank you, and really pleased to see so many people here today.
Charlotte je navdušena, da vidi toliko učiteljev, ki so pripravljeni še delati na procesu razvoja in spreminjati stvari, in je vesela, da se nam pridružuje v tem in bo z nami tudi v Sloveniji v letošnjem letu, marca na posvetu 16. 17. marca, tudi tekom leta. Organizirali bomo tudi obiske, kjer bomo obiskali šole, s katerimi ona sodeluje v Angliji, tako da nas spremljajte. Zdaj bi prosila še za projekcijo. Bo šlo. Tako da morda bi še izkoristila in vas povabila na spletno stran, kjer imate na voljo poleg njenega predavanja v Laškem, kjer verjamem, da se boste že marsikaj naučili, ko boste to poslušali in dobili kakšne ideje, tudi ostale primere iz prakse. In bi vas povabila tudi na tiste, ki še niste v procesu formativne pedagogike, da se pridružite na začetnem seminarju, po 2 letih prihaja, tako da nekaj prijav je že, je še približno polovica mest, tako da povabim, da se prijavite do 9. septembra. Potem bodo v jeseni tudi webinarji na temo napake, dodatne strokovne pomoči, jezika in zapisa. Razmišljamo o povezavi tudi ravnatelja in da bodo ravnatelji delili izkušnje z procesa tega razvoja, tranzicije, in seveda to bova počeli tudi mi dve Charlotte. Tale posnetek bo na voljo na spletni strani, na Facebook strani, in na spletni strani je že na voljo intervju. In sicer, če boste šli pod primere, boste našli posnetek intervjuja in seveda povabljeni, da si ga pogledate tudi z vašimi kolegi na šoli. In za konec vam polagam na srce in sebi tudi, zaupajmo sebi in učencem. In tako, kot so kolegi že podelili, povežimo se z njimi, poslušajmo jih in bo to ona čarobna formula ali pa recept, ki bo deloval. Tako da hvala vsem, ki ste se nam pridružili, hvala tudi za vaše komentarje in seveda podelite tole naprej s tistimi, ki veste, da jim bo sedlo v srce. Lahko noč.